Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum everyone. Today we are going to start our second lesson, which is Nicobobinus. Okay, so this lesson has two chapters. Okay, chapter 1 and chapter 2, and today we are going to read chapter number 1. Before reading, let me tell you a brief summary of this lesson, what this lesson is about. This is a lesson about two friends, Nicobobinus and Rosie, in which Rosie thinks Nicobobinus that he is having some extraordinary powers, so she always gives him some wild ideas. Okay, so because Rosie thinks that Nicobobinus can do anything, so one day she asks him to go and find Dragonland. Nicobobinus he accepts, and then they begin their journey, where they when they start their journey they get themselves tangled up in all manner of tricky situations. Okay, so let's begin with the reading, and we will see what those situations were. Let's begin with the reading. This is the story of the most extraordinary child who ever struck his tongue at the Prime Minister. His name was Nicobobinus. He lived a long time ago in a city called Venice, and he could do anything. So, extraordinary means amazing or exceptional. Child, whoever struck his tongue means stuck his tongue. It is basically a kind of rude expression. Okay, like जैसे आप किसी को जुबान निकालो. At the Prime Minister, and Venice is a city in Italy. So in this paragraph, we are told about Nicobobinus, that he had some extraordinary qualities, and he once lived in Venice. Okay, and he could do anything. Of course, not everybody knew he could do anything. In fact, only his best friend Rosie knew, and nobody took any notice of anything Rosie said, because she was always having wild ideas anyway. So only Rosie knew that he is not he's like having some extraordinary qualities, okay, or powers, and she thought that he could do anything, but nobody believed her. One day, for example, Rosie said to Nicobobinus, "Let's pull up every single weed on your doorstep." So one day, Rosie asked Nicobobinus to let's pull up every single weed. Weed is a kind of weed is a plant. It can be a plant that grows, an unwanted plant. Okay, that we can easily remove from your doorstep. Let's not, said Nicobobinus. She was actually asking him to weed all the to remove all the weeds from the doorstep, but Nicobobinus did not agree, which is what Rosie thought he would say. In that case, replied Rosie, let's discover the land of dragons. So when Nicobobinus rejects the idea of weeding, she gives him another idea, which is discovering the land of dragons. Don't be daft. Daft mean silly or foolish, said Nicobobinus. How can we do that? So, because you can do anything, said Rosie. So, this is what Rosie thought, that Nicobobinus can, as he is having extraordinary powers, so he can do anything. So, he can also find the land of dragons. So, the next morning, just as it was getting light, Rosie threw little pebbles up at Nicobobinus' shutters. Nicobobinus was still half asleep when he looked out. Pebbles are small rounded stones, and shutters is wooden cover outer side of the window. Look, this is a window, and there there must be a shutter. Okay, so she threw some pebbles to wake him up as he was asleep. Nico, Nicobobinus was still half asleep when he looked out. "What's the matter, Rosie?" he asked. "Shh," whispered Rosie. "I have got the buns and the lemonade." Buns, a sweet small bread, and lemonade means it is a drink made with the juices of lemons and water and sugar. Okay, so she whispered, she spoke to him so quietly or softly that I have got these things. "What for?" asked Nicobobinus. "Supplies for the road," whispered Rosie. "Where are we going?" asked Nicobobinus. "We are going to find the land of dragons," whispered Rosie. "Don't you remember?" So she made him remember that they are going to find the land of dragons. "Oh, I thought you might have forgotten about that," said Nicobobinus. "No fear," said Rosie. "It's one of the best ideas I have ever had." No fear means certainly not. Okay. "What about the weeding?" said Nicobobinus. So Nicobobinus, he's actually trying to divert her attention from that trip to weeding. "Come on," said Rosie. So they set off through the early morning town. Set off means to begin a journey. Through the early morning town, when they got to the end of the narrow street where they lived, they met a night watchman who said, "Where are you two going at this hour?" So from here, their adventures start. Okay, first they met with the night watchman. Okay, and he stopped them and asked them, "Where are you going at this hour?" "We are going to look for the land of dragons," said Nicobobinus. You can't do that at this time of the morning," said the night watchman. But before he could grab them, Rosie and Nicobobinus were sprinting away as fast as they could. So the watchman, he actually tried to stop them, but before he could grab them or stop them, they sprinted away. Sprinting means run fastly. They ran very fastly, and they could they could save themselves. Okay, and they didn't stop running until they had crossed 3 bridges and tripped over a dog that was lying asleep under a garden wall. Tripped over means to fall over. A dog that was lying asleep under a garden wall. Rosie's bottle of lemonade smashed means it was broken against the wall, and the dog leapt to its feet. Leapt to its feet means it stood up abruptly, barking as if it had thought dog's doomsday had arrived. For a moment they were sure it was going to bite them, but then it noticed the 2 buns that had rolled into the gutter, and it wolfed them down. Wolfed them down means the dog had eaten all the buns. Okay, barked thank you and ran off to its friends. So the dog first tried to eat these 2 children, um, but when the dog he saw the buns in Rosie's hand, he he did not eat them, and he greedily eaten all the buns. Okay, and he thanked them, and then they ran off to its the dog ran off to its friends. We are not going to get far without supplies, said Rosie gloomily. Gloomily means in an unhappy way. Rosie said that they can't go any farther because they had nothing to eat now. So, I wonder if I could pick a few of those, said Nicobobinus, gazing up at an apple tree on the other side of the garden wall. Okay, so Nicobobinus, he saw an apple tree and he tried to pick a few of those apples. Now he was you know he was actually worried that how can he get that. Of course you can, said Rosie. Stand on my shoulders. Now Rosie again gives him uh, again another wild idea, because she was very expert in giving him so many wild ideas. So again she gives him a wild idea to stand on her shoulders. So Nicobobinus stood on Rosie's shoulders and climbed onto the wall, but the tree was farther away than he thought, and as he reached out, he lost his balance and fell with a crash down into the most magnificent garden he had ever been in. So, magnificent means extremely beautiful. Okay, so even as he stood on Rosie's shoulder, he fell into a magnificent, a very beautiful garden. Nicobobinus looked back up at the high wall, but there was no way he could climb back. So he could not climb back. And what am I going to do? He yelled. No, he cried. Yelled mean he cried. You will think of something, Rosie yelled back, crossing her fingers very hard. So she was actually praying for him. Crossing her fingers mean because she could not see him like helpless like this. She could not think of it. Oi! Said a voice behind Nicobobinus. Nicobobinus didn't stop to look who it was. He ran straight into a tree. So Nicobobinus, he heard a voice, but he could not, look back at him. He just started running. Got you, said the voice, and Nicobobinus felt 5 thick fingers on his neck. Oh, said Nicobobinus. So the person got hold of Nicobobinus, and Nicobobinus said, "Oh, it is an expression of kind of shock or pain." I have been waiting for you, said the voice, and Nicobobinus felt 5 more thick fingers round his wrist. But Nicobobinus, instead of trying to run away, doubled himself up and went backwards as fast as he could. So the man's legs were knocked from under him and he landed in a pile of leaves. So, in order to lose out from the man's tight clutches, he knocked that person down and he started running. Okay, are you all right? Called Rosie, but she didn't hear any reply except for the man, who growled, "Just you wait, both of you." "Oh dear," said Rosie, "sounds like trouble." And she was right. So Rosie, she felt that they are in trouble, and uh, she was actually right. They were basically in trouble now. So what was that trouble? This is it for today. We will read the next chapter 2 tomorrow, inshallah. Reread the lesson, and if you find any thing confusing in the chapter, you can ask me. Okay.